Good evening, radio fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, and welcome to another look at radio ratings from select markets across the country. And today we'll be taking a look at my home market of Phoenix, as well as Detroit and the Twin Cities. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the number 13 market in the U.S., and that's my current home market, Phoenix, Arizona. And there is a tie for first place in what is shaping up to be a two-station race for the top spot in the Valley of the Sun, as iHeartMedia's adult contemporary station 99.9 KEZ, otherwise known as KESZ, and Hubbard's classic rock 100.7 KSLX are tied atop the Phoenix ratings for June. KEZ went from a 7.4 to an 8.3, while KSLX increased just a little from 8.1 to 8.3. So again, these two stations are tied for the number one spot in the Phoenix ratings. KEZ has a higher cumulative audience than KSLX. You have 964,600 for KEZ and 655,100 for KSLX. In a very distant third place, you have a tie between a pair of iHeart radio stations. Conservative talker News Talk 550 KFYI is up from 3.9 to 4.4 with a cumulative audience of 150,000. While its sister adult hit station 95.5 The Mountain KYOT FM holds steady at a 4.4. And both stations tied for third place. The Mountain has a cumulative audience of 624,100. Moving to fifth place, you have Odyssey Classic Hits Station, Big 94.5 KOOL FM, inching up from 4.2 to 4.3 and a cumulative audience of 615,600. And that's good for fifth place. And then both country stations are next. iHeart Country Station 102.5 KNIX holds steady at a 4.1, taking number 6 in the market with a cumulative audience of 488,800. And its competitor, Odyssey Country Station KMLE Country 107.9, is up from 3.3 to 3.7, and they sit in 7th place. They have a cumulative audience of 427,400. So both country stations in the top 10 here in Phoenix. Coming in at number 8 is Hubbard's alternative rocker Alt AZ 93.3. That's KDKB FM. They're up from 3.2 to 3.6 with a cumulative audience of 451,800. And that puts them in 8th place, ahead of its sister active rocker 98 KUPD, which is down once again from 3.7 to 3.3 and a cumulative audience of 423,500. So KUPD comes in at number 9, and then iHeartRadio's Hot AC Mix 96.9 KMXP rounds out the top 10. They're down half a point from 3.6 to 3.1. And they have a cumulative audience of just under 500,000 at 495,700. Just outside the top 10, you have Intravision's La Tricolor 103.5 KLNZ, which plays regional Mexican music. They're up from 2.9 to 3.0. Cumulative audience of 301,000, and they're actually tied with iHeart's top 40 station 104.7 KISS FM KZZP, up from 2.7 to 3.0. So those two stations are tied for 11th. And Kiss FM has a cumulative audience of 481,400. Coming in at number 13 is Zealous Media's Rhythmic Hot AC, Hot 97.5 and 103.9, which is heard on KMVA 97.5 FM, primarily in the city of Phoenix and in the West Valley, and KZON 103.9 in the East Valley. They're up half a point as well, from 2.4 to 2.9, and they have a cumulative audience of 533,100 across both frequencies. So they're doing pretty well, sitting there in 13th place. 14th place is classical station 89.5 KBAQ, owned by the Maricopa County Community Colleges and Arizona State University. They're up slightly from 2.7 to 2.8 and a cumulative audience of 149,500. Coming in at number 15 is Odyssey Top 40 station and Kiss FM competitor Live 101.5 KLAV FM, jumping from 2.0 to 2.7 and a cumulative audience of 546,400. So as far as cumulative audiences, Live 101.5 has more people listening to their station as opposed to Kiss FM. And Live 101.5 comes in at number 15. Next at number 16 is Televisa Univision's Amor 106.3 KOMR, which plays Spanish adult hits. They actually dropped in the ratings in June from 2.8 to 2.5, and they have a cumulative audience of 161,500. In at number 17 is classic hip-hop station 101.1 The Bounce KZCE, up from 2.1 to 2.4, and this is a locally owned station by Sierra H Broadcasting, whose headquarters are in Scottsdale. The Bounce has a cumulative audience of 337,700. At number 18 is EMF's 105.5 Air 1 KAIZ, which plays contemporary worship music. They're up nearly a point from 1.5 to 2.3. In fact, this is one of 5 stations that are tied for 18th in the ratings at 2.3. The other is our local NPR news station, 91.5 KJZZ from Rio Salado College, which moved down from 2.6 to 2.3. Chavez Media Group's La Campesina 101.9, KNAI AM 860, and 3 translator stations across the valley on 101.9. They all play regional Mexican. And La Campesina is down from 2.8 to 2.3. They are also tied with Zealous Media's 95.1 and 94.9 The Wow Factor, KOAI FM, and a Chandler licensed translator station. And this broadcast is also heard on KZON's second digital subchannel. They're up from 2.2 to 2.3. And then Bonneville's news talker, KTAR News 92.3, is down from 2.4 to 2.3. Alright, as for cumulative audiences, Air 1 has 157,100. KJZZ is at 136,400. La Campesina is 200,700. The Wow Factor has the largest audience of these 5 stations at 278,500, and KTAR News 92.3 FM has a cumulative audience of 229,700. So all 5 of those stations are tied for 18th place, which brings us to number 23 in the market, and that's Bonneville's sports station, Arizona Sports 98.7 FM, KMVP FM, which is the Arizona Cardinals, Arizona Diamondbacks, Phoenix Suns, and Arizona State Sun Devils flagship station. They are down from 2.4 to 2.1, taking 23rd, with a cumulative audience of 191,000. In 24th place is Televisa Univision's regional Mexican station, Cubuena, 105.9 and 105.1. This station is heard on KHOT FM 105.9, primarily in the East Valley, and also on KHOV 105.1 out of Wickenburg, which covers the West Valley. They dropped a little bit from 2.1 to 2.0, cumulative audience of 244,000. In 25th place, you've got Sierra H Broadcasting's throwback R&B station, Mega 104.3 KAJM. They're down from 1.6 to 1.4, with a cumulative audience of 254,200. Next up in 26th place is Intravision's La Suavecita 107.1 KVVA, taking 26th place, down from 1.5 to 1.3, and a cumulative audience of 169,900 for the Spanish adult hit station. Next up is Hubbard's Oldies station, Oldies 92.7, which is technically heard on KAZG 1440 AM, with an FM translator in Phoenix on 92.7, and their signal is also fed via KDKB's second HD subchannel. Oldies 92.7 took more than a half a point drop from 1.8 to 1.2. And a cumulative audience of 173,600. They are tied in the ratings with Family Life Broadcasting's 90.3 Family Life Radio, KFLR. They're also down from 1.3 to 1.2. And they have a cumulative audience of 151,500. And then you have another tie between Intravision's Fuego 106.7 KFUE and 89.1 K-Love KLVK. Both took a bit of a slide in June. Fuego 106.7 is down from 1.2 to 1.0, while K-Love is down from 1.1 to 1.0. Fuego has a cumulative audience of 103,500, while K-Love is at 106,100. And then continuing their struggles is Zealous Media's Power 98.3 and 96.1. That's KKFR, dropping below a 1 share in the Phoenix market. For the first time in a while, they're down from 1.0 to 0.9. Now, the format says Rhythmic Hop Contemporary, but this station does play hip-hop. They have a cumulative audience of 230,300. And towards the bottom of the Phoenix rankings, Power 98.3 and 96.1 is tied with 89.9 K-Love, KLVA, This is out in Superior, Arizona, and covers primarily the eastern half of the Phoenix market. They're down from 1.3 to 0.9 with a cumulative audience of 132,300. Next up is Televisa Univision's Latino Mix 100.3 KQMR, playing a Spanish Top 40 format. They're down from 0.6 to 0.5, cumulative audience of 119,400. Next is iHeartRadio sports station Fox Sports 910 KGME, up from 0.3 to 0.4, cumulative audience of 31,200. And tied with them is the newly launched KZOM FM La Zeta 96.5, which plays regional Mexican and is owned by Orozco Broadcasting. They're down from 0.5 to 0.4, and the cumulative audiences for both stations are pretty much the same. It's 31,200 for Fox Sports 910, 31,300 for La Zeta 96.5. Then you have the online streams of both KMLE Country 107.9 and 95.1 and 94.9 The Wow Factor, both registering at 0.3. iHeartRadio's regional Mexican station, 93.7 El Patron, which is KOY AM 1230, and an FM translator at 93.7, holds steady at a 0.2. Cumulative audience of 47,500. They are tied with Bonneville's ESPN Phoenix 620 AM, that's KTAR AM, down from 0.3 to 0.2. Now, this station runs the entire ESPN radio schedule outside of some play-by-play. They have a cumulative audience of 4,900. Then you have the HD stream of 89.5 KBOC on KBA QHD 8, which registered as a 0.1. Hubbard Sports Station AM 1060 KDUS stays at a 0.1. Family Life Broadcasting stream of 90.3 Family Life Radio is also 0.1. Jazz PHX, which is heard on KJZZ-HD2, is also at 0.1. The online stream of Big 94.5 is down from 0.2 to 0.1. Then you have the Latter-day Saints channel. That's a religious station on KTAR's second HD subchannel. They're at 0.1. And 95.1 and 94.9 The Wow Factor, as I said, is also heard on KZON HD2, also registered at 0.1. Alright, so that's my home market of Phoenix. Now let's head back east and take a look at the number 14 market in the country, and that is Detroit, Michigan. And sitting at the top, believe it or not, is Odyssey Sports Station 97.1 The Ticket WXYT-FM. They are actually on a decline for a second straight month, from 8.9 in April to 8.6 in May, down to 8.0 in June. And they are still the market leader in Detroit. And they have the flagship, and they have the broadcast rights to the Tigers, Pistons, Red Wings, and Lions, all on this station. The Ticket has a cumulative audience of 643,800, and that's 1 point ahead of its sister classic hits station, 104.3 WOMC, which stays steady at a 7.0. They have a cumulative audience of 794,600. In third place is iHeartRadio's adult contemporary 100.3 WNIC, slipping from 6.5 to 6.4, and their downward trend continues. Because this was the top station in Detroit for the first 3 months of 2025, but they have since fallen off a cliff a little bit. They do have the highest cumulative audience of any Detroit station at 1,101,600. Its sister iHeartRadio adult, or rather urban adult contemporary station, Mix 92.3 WMXD, takes 4th place, up from 6.0 to 6.2, and a cumulative audience of 534,400. And at number 5 is Odyssey Country Station 99.5 WYCD, and they actually took a hit, down from 6.2 to 5.6. And they have a cumulative audience of 560,300. Coming in at number 6 is Beasley Media Group's Rock 101 WRIF, down from 5.6 to 5.2. And they have a cumulative audience of 483,200. In 7th place is their sister classic rocker 94.7 WCSX, up half a point from 4.6 to 5.1. Cumulative audience of 626,600. Coming in at number 8 is iHeartRadio's top 40 station, Channel 95.5 WKQI, down from 4.8 to 4.6. Cumulative audience of 704,500. In at number 9 is Odyssey's all-news station, News Radio 950 WWJ, which is also up half a point from 4.1 to 4.6. So technically they tie Channel 95.5 for 8th in the market. WWJ has a cumulative audience of 370,000. Rounding out the top 10 is Cumulus's Hot AC station, 96.3 WDVD, up from 3.9 to 4.2, and a cumulative audience of 669,000. Below the top 10, you have Beasley Media Group's 105.9 KISS FM WDMK, which plays urban adult contemporary music. They're off just a little bit from 3.5 to 3.4. In fact, they've been in decline for 3 months now. Their cumulative audience is 424,800. So that puts them in 11th place. Next, you have a tie for 12th place, a 3-way tie for 12th place, with Odyssey alternative rocker Alt 98.7 WDZH, iHeartRadio's hip hop 97.9 WJLB, and Beasley Media Group's classic hip hopper 105.1 The Bounce WMGC FM, all registering at a 3.3. Alt 98.7 is actually up a little bit from 3.2. JLB took a drop from 3.9, while The Bounce stays steady at 3.3. Cumulative audience for Alt 98.7 is nearly 500,000 at 499,300. For WJLB, it's 473,800. And for WMGC, The Bounce, it's 493,600. And again, all 3 of those stations are tied for 12th place. Coming in at number 15 is classical and jazz station 90.9 WRCJ, moving up almost half a point, or over half a point, I should say, from 2.6 to 3.2. They have a cumulative audience of 115,900. So if you were to turn on WRCJ right now, as it is 11 p.m. in Detroit, they're probably playing jazz. They play classical music during the day and jazz music at night. Next up is iHeartRadio's Classic Rock 106.7 Detroit's Wheels, known as WLLZ FM. And they are down from 3.2 to 2.9 with a cumulative audience of 413,500. So this would be the classic rock competitor to CSX in the Detroit market. Then you have Wayne State University's News Talker 101.9 WDET, up from 2.3 to 2.7, and this is one of the two NPR news stations in the Detroit market. And they have a cumulative audience of 148,900, and again, they moved up from 2.3 to 2.7. Just below them is the flagship station of Michigan Public, 91.7 WUOM from the University of Michigan. They're down from 2.8 to 2.6 with a cumulative audience of 134,700. Now they do have 4 other stations across the network broadcasting to many parts of Michigan. You have stations in Grand Rapids, my hometown, also in Flint, Lansing, and Port Huron. So they pretty much cover most, if not all, of the lower peninsula of Michigan. Crazy Cajun is in the house. How you doing, man? Up next is the online stream of 97.1 The Ticket, which is up from 2.1 to 2.3. The local K-Love station in Detroit, that would be 102.7 WDKL, is actually down a little from 1.8 to 1.7 with a cumulative audience of 163,900. Below them is hip-hop station Hot 107.5 WGPR, holding steady at a 1.6 and a cumulative audience of 268,400. Next up is Cumulus News Talker, News Talk 760 WJR, holding steady at a 1.4. Adele Radio's 910 AM Superstation, which is now a conservative talk station. This would be WFDF 910. They're down from 0.8 to 0.7 with a cumulative audience of 33,200. And then the local Family Life Radio affiliate in Detroit is 93.1 WUFL FM from Family Life Broadcasting. They move up from 0.4 to 0.6, cumulative audience of 95,300. Next up is the Detroit Praise Network, which is heard on WDMKHD2. They're up from 0.4 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 79,100. And then you have the online streams of both News Radio 950 WWJ coming in at a 0.3 and 90.9 WRCJ coming in at a 0.2, which is down from 0.4. Detroit's BIN 1130 WDFN is down from 0.2 to 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 9,500. All right, the online stream of 96.3 WDVD did register in the market at 0.1, while the online stream of 104.3 WOMC did not register for a second month in a row. And WOMC is the new flagship station for Michigan Wolverines football, and I think men's basketball as well. Okay, that is the Detroit market. Now, we're going to go to the 15th market in the country, and that's Minneapolis-St. Paul. And leading the charge in the Twin Cities is iHeartMedia sports station 100.3 KFan, KFXN. They actually took a big drop from their 10.9 in April. They went to 9.8 in May, and now they're down to 8.4, but still enough to have more than a 1-point lead in the Minneapolis-St. Paul market. The Fan has a cumulative audience of 357,800, and this is the flagship station of the Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Wild, and Minnesota Golden Gophers football and men's basketball. Sitting in second is Hubbard's Hot AC station, KS95, which is KSCP-FM. They're also down from 7.5 to 7.1. They have a cumulative audience of 671,800. And this is one of the many radio stations that locally based Hubbard Broadcasting owns. They also own the local ABC station in the Twin Cities, KSTP-TV. At number 3 is iHeartRadio's classic hit station, Cool 108, KQQL, inching up from 6.9 to 7.0, and a cumulative audience of 793,800. They basically switched spots with Northwestern Media's contemporary Christian station, 98.5 KTIS FM, which went from 7.0 down to a 6.9, with a cumulative audience of 367,500. So that puts Cool 108 in third place, while KTIS FM slips down to fourth. In fifth place is Minnesota Public Radio's NPR news station, 91.1 MPR News, KNOW FM. They're up from 5.9 to 6.6, taking that number 5 spot rather comfortably, and their cumulative audience is 380,400. At number 6 is iHeart Country Station K102, KEEY FM, moving up nearly a point from 5.9 to 5.8 to take number 6, cumulative audience of 547,500. Next up is Odyssey Adult Hit Station 104.1 Jack FM, KZJK. They take 7th place, moving down from 5.9 to 5.7, and a cumulative audience of 582,200. Oh yeah, all is good. I've just been sleepy all day. How's things with you, bro? So Jack FM is 7th. Number 8 is another radio property of Minnesota Public Radio, and that's 89.3 The Current, KCMP-FM, playing adult album alternative. They jumped up pretty good from a 4.8 to a 5.5 to take 8th place with a cumulative audience of 285,300. In 9th place is Cumulus Classic Rock Station 92 KQRS, slipping from 4.9 to 4.8 with a cumulative audience of 530,400. Yes, we are blessed. Rounding out the top 10 is iHeartRadio Top 40 Station 101.3 KDWB, down from 4.6 to 4.5, with a cumulative audience of 605,700. And they actually tie with their sister Hot AC station, Cities 97.1 KTCZ, at 4.2 in May. They're up to a 4.5 to tie KDWB for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th place. Cumulative audience is 627,200. Next is Odyssey News and Talk Station, News Talk 830 WCCO, up from 3.8 to 4.2, and a cumulative audience of 205,300. This is the Minnesota Twins and Minnesota Timberwolves flagship station. Next up is Cumulus Rocker 93X KXXR, down from 3.9 to 3.8, with a cumulative audience of 369,800. And there's a big gap between 93X and the next four stations, who are all tied with each other, including Odyssey Country Station 1029 The Wolf KMNB FM, up from 2.1 to 2.2. They also broadcast Twins baseball on this station as well. The Wolf has a cumulative audience of 325,000. And then you have Minnesota Public Radio's 99.5 Classical MPR, which is KSJN FM, up from 2.0 to 2.2, with a cumulative audience of 135,200. Next is Conservative Talker, News Talk 1130 KTLK, down from 2.4 to 2.2, and a cumulative audience of 99,800. And Hubbard Broadcasting's Entertainment Talk Station, My Talk 1071 KTMY, up from 2.1 to 2.2. Now, this station is aimed primarily at women, and they have a cumulative audience of 105,700. So all four of those stations are tied at 2.2. Next is WRPX Incorporated Oldie Station 74 WDGY, which is heard during daytime hours on WDGY 740 AM, but is also heard on KTMY's HD2 subchannel 24 hours a day. They went up from 1.7 to 1.8 with a cumulative audience of 115,100. Then you have the Soft AC triple cast of Love 105, which consists of WGVX on 105.3, or rather on 105.1, that's WGVX. There's also WLUP 105.3 and WWWM 105.7. All right, so WGVX is in Lakeville, and that covers, I think it's the northern portions of the Twin Cities, or the southern portion of the Twin Cities, excuse me. WLUP 105.3 covers the northern portion of the Twin Cities. While WWWM 105.7 covers Minneapolis-St. Paul proper. Love 105 dropped from a 1.9 to a 1.8 with a cumulative audience of 218,200. Then you have the online stream of KNOW-FM 91.1 MPR News with a 1.4. Alright, then you have Jazz Station, Jazz 88 KBEM, which is owned by Minneapolis Public Schools. They're down from 1.4 to 1.2. Cumulative audience of 91,300. They're actually tied with iHeart Hip Hop Station, Hot 102.5 KTZZ FM HD3, which also broadcasts on a Minneapolis translator on 102.5. They're down from 1.3 to 1.2 with a cumulative audience of 98,000. Carpenter Broadcasting's Total Country Bob FM, which is heard in the immediate Twin Cities area on KLCI 106.1, remains steady at a 1.1. Cumulative audience of 99,700. Next is adult R&B station 89.9 KMOJ from the Center for Communication and Development. They're down to a 1.1 as well from a 1.3. Cumulative audience of 100,400. Next is the local Air One station in the Twin Cities, KMWA, which I think it's either 95.3 or 96.3. I think it's 96.3. Anyway, they remain steady at a 0.5, and they have a cumulative audience of 65,700. That's followed by Santa Maria Broadcasting's regional Mexican station, La Raza, which is heard on KMNV 1400 AM. They're down from 0.4 to 0.3 with a cumulative audience of 22,700. Next is the online stream of News Talk 830 WCCO, also at a 0.3. Northwestern Media's religious talk station, Faith 900 KTIS AM, stays at a 0.2. They are also tied with alternative rock station Radio K 770 KUOM AM from the University of Minnesota. They're down from 0.4 to 0.2, and this is also an AM daytimer. They're at 0.2, as well as Relevant Radio 1330 WLOL with a Catholic talk station, or a Catholic talk format rather. They remain steady at 0.2. And the cumulative audiences for all three stations is pretty low. For Faith 900, it's 27,000. Radio K is 35,500. And Relevant Radio is at 9,400. Next up is Borgen Broadcasting's 94.9 El Rey, WREY AM 630, with a St. Paul translator on 94.9. They stay at a 0.2 yet again, and a cumulative audience of 17,600. All right. Minnesota Public Radio's 89.3 HD2 local current, that's KCMP HD2. They register at a 0.1. That's a AAA format with a cumulative audience of 5,300. Pride Radio. This is iHeartRadio's top 40 dance and EDM station aimed at the LGBTQ plus community. They're at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 11,500. And Pride Radio is fed via KDWB's HD2 subchannel. Then you have the online streams of 102.9 The Wolf and 89.9 KMOJ, both at a 0.1. Radio Heartland, which is an Americana and folk station from Minnesota Public Radio, which is heard on KNOW HD2, is down from 0.2 to 0.1. They have iHeartRadio's Black-oriented news and talk station, BIN 93.3, which is heard on KQQL HD2, and a Minneapolis translator on 93.3. They're stuck at 0.1. Hubbard Sports Station, Score North, KSTP AM 1500, remains at 0.1. This is the local ESPN radio station for the Twin Cities. They have a cumulative audience of 16,900. Also registering, barely, is K-Love, heard on KTCZ HD2. They're down from 0.2 to 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 14,700. Meanwhile, the online streams of KCMP HD2 and KNOW HD2 plus the BBC World Service, which is heard on KNOW HD3, did not register in the Twin Cities market for June. And that is a look at Phoenix, Detroit, and Minneapolis-St. Paul, their radio ratings for June. We'll be back with a look at the Tampa Bay, Denver, and San Diego markets. So join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.